Hello there guys, and welcome to Mad Doc Minis. In this video I'm going to be creating my own version of Deathwing Knights using the Leviathan Terminators as a base for the conversion. I also use quite a lot of components from the Deathwing Terminators kit as well. So I just want to draw your attention to something important before we get underway. Now I'm building the Knight, so I'm not actually going to be using the Storm Bolters, but I'm using these as an example. The Leviathan pauldrons are actually quite a bit bigger, and you can't really see that in the angle that I'm showing you here, but don't worry, we're going to zoom in a little bit so you can get where I'm coming from. It's a small difference, but it is significant at this scale, and it does make a difference once they're attached to the miniatures. I did a lot of experimenting around off screen, and I just wanted you to be fully informed here. So if we take a look at them really quite next to each other, you'll hopefully see where I'm coming from. The one on the left is the Leviathan pauldron, the one on the right is just from the Dark Angels Terminators kit. And you can see we've got a greater width there going on. We're talking millimeters, if that, but it does make a difference at this scale. You can see here more clearly we've got a much greater depth to that pauldron, and that's important when you attach them to a miniature, and a greater height as well. So just be aware, be fully informed. I go with the kind of Dark Angels components, but do what you feel is right, and just understand there is a difference. Having decided that I'm going to use the Dark Angels components for the arms and the weapons, I do a little bit of dry fitting and discover that I'm going to need to trim down the components a little bit to make them fit nicely. Just kind of shave them off, flatten them off a little bit on the side of the torso as you see here, and actually on some of the arms as well. But that just means that you can get a much nicer kind of fit with the arms when you kind of put them onto the torso. So just a little bit of dry fitting goes a long way, guys, just kind of back and forth. I never liked the Maces of Absolution for the Deathwing Knight, so I'm going for these swords instead from the Grey Knights Terminators. That's going to offend some of you. You will see little bits of Grey Knights iconography here and there. Doesn't bother me an awful lot, but of course you could cover that up quite easily if it offends you. So once again, just shaving down on the side of the torso there, and a little bit on the inside of the arm as well. You get a feel for kind of what you need to do, and it's not much, frankly. It's just a little bit tidying up, just to smoothen the surfaces off a little bit. There we are. Always attach the arms a little bit higher up than you think you need to, because remember there is this size differential that you need to compensate a little bit for as well. So there we are, that's kind of what we end up looking like at this stage here. And the pauldrons need to go on as well. And once again, I'd suggest giving yourself a little bit of room, just attaching them a little bit higher up on top of the arms than they would normally go. And that just helps to give them a little bit of extra kind of size really, or the impression of size that you don't really have from these smaller components. So yeah, I know I'm going on about it, guys. I just want you to be fully aware that, you know, it's not as straightforward as it might seem just to kind of stick these things together. It's fairly easy. It just requires a little bit of attention to detail, I think. You can see here, definitely a little bit small, but within sensible parameters for me personally. So moving on, with regards to the heads do not need any modification really. You know, the Terminator heads on the old style Terminators were probably a bit oversized in all honesty, so they've kept the heads the same size, which I think was the right thing to do. And you really don't need to do anything to them really, they're just going to sit in there quite nicely. So I'm going for helmeted heads on mine. Obviously you could go for the kind of the robed heads if you prefer. And I will show you that they actually fit quite well. I've got a bit of footage here on the leader, the kind of equivalent of the sergeant. This one came out really, really well. And here's the Grey Knights iconography on that sword. Look, something you could cover up if you really want to do, if you want to do anything like I'm doing, that is. If you're using the Maces of Absolution or the flail, then you won't have that problem at all. So yeah, that one came together really, really nicely. Going back to the idea of the heads, you really can use the robed heads, guys, if you want to. You don't really need to modify them at all. Of course, you've got to remember, if you're doing it like me, you don't have the kind of the robes going over the body. It looks okay on its own. I'm not really a fan of the robed heads. They just look like they can't see where they're going to me. But, you know, it's up to you. It's all preference. But you don't need to modify them. They will go in there. But for me, it's helmets all the way on my Space Marines. Like a nice clean look to my Terminators, so I'm going with that. And just a bit of attention to, you know, where the helmet is kind of facing and the overall posing of the miniature. So let's throw these guys up on a rotating platform. So this is the leader. This one is particularly good. The posing just came together on this, and I'm really, really happy. He's probably my favourite in the group, and not just because he's the leader, just because the pose just works on this guy. Next one up is probably my least favourite. This one looks a little bit gormless, I think. You know, a little bit boring, isn't he, really? But, you know, he kind of bulks out the ranks a little bit, so that's fine. Very kind of classic kind of Terminator pose, that one, I guess. Moving on again, this guy's a little bit better, this next one. So he kind of looks like he's kind of fending off an attack and is ready to kind of return the blow. I kind of like that. Almost looks like he's kind of like challenging someone, actually, this particular miniature. So I'm really happy with that one. And moving on again, this one here, again, I kind of like the posing of the shield on this one, like he's kind of stomping forwards, you know, just paying a bit of attention to posing really does kind of count, you know. It really makes the miniatures look a bit better. I know that sounds obvious, but it's something I've been trying to take more attention with kind of recently. And here's the last one. Again, another good one. Looks like he's striding forward. Looks like he's kind of looking over the top of his shield, which I quite like. Kind of defensive posture. Really, really nice. So bearing in mind, guys, these are obviously a lot bigger than the regular Terminators, the previous generation. I'm just throwing up an Ultramarines Terminator here just so you can get that impression. I have done comparisons before, of course, but just in case you're hopping on board with this video, it's quite a size difference, isn't it? So putting these guys all together now in a squad, I'm really happy with how they turned out. This is basically going to function as my custom bodyguard for my Lionel Johnson figure, which I've only just got at the time of making this video. So I'm going to start working on him, and I'm really, really happy. So yeah, if you like the content, guys, please consider liking and sharing. It really does help. And if you're not already subscribed, consider giving me a sub. I really do appreciate all the support. Until the next video, take care, and thanks ever so much for joining me. Cheers.